You wake up every morning and something is wrong. You can't name it. Your life looks fine on paper. Maybe you have the job, the relationship, the apartment, the things you're supposed to have. But inside, there's this emptiness, this sense that you're living someone else's life, this feeling that somewhere along the way you lost yourself, and you don't even know when it happened or who you were before. You scroll through your phone looking for something. You don't know what. You start projects and abandon them. You feel disconnected from people even when you're surrounded by them. You wonder if this is just what adult life is, if everyone feels this hollow, if the dreams you had as a child were just naive fantasies that had to die. What if I told you that this feeling of being lost is not a problem to be solved? What if it's a signal, a message from the deepest part of yourself, telling you that you've strayed too far from who you really are? And what if this crisis, as painful as it is actually the beginning of the most important journey of your life? Carl Jung spent his entire career studying this feeling. He experienced it himself in the most terrifying way, and he emerged with a map of the human psyche that explains why we lose ourselves, how it happens, and most importantly, how we find our way back. For the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you why you feel lost, and I'm going to show you the path home. Not back to who you were, forward to who you were always meant to become. Stay with me. This could change everything. Before we dive in, I need to ask you something. Do you remember a time when you felt alive, truly alive, when you weren't performing or pretending, when you were simply being yourself? How long ago was that and what changed? Leave a comment, because understanding when you lost yourself is the first step to finding yourself again. Carl Jung was one of the most brilliant psychologists who ever lived, but he wasn't just an observer of the human condition. He was a fellow traveler through the darkness. In 1913, Jung went through what he called his confrontation with the unconscious. For years he experienced visions, heard voices, felt himself descending into what he feared might be madness. He saw figures from the depths of his psyche. He recorded everything in what would later be called the Red Book, a journal of his journey through the inner world. By any clinical standard, Jung was having a breakdown, but he came to see it differently. He wasn't breaking down, he was breaking through. The old self, the self that had been constructed to please others and fit into the world, was dying, and something new was trying to be born. This experience became the foundation of his life's work, because Jung understood that feeling lost is not a malfunction. It's a necessary stage in the journey toward becoming whole. Jung identified the core reason we feel lost, and it's not what you think. It's not that we lack direction or purpose. It's that we've become strangers to ourselves. From the moment we're born, we're shaped by external forces. Our parents teach us what's acceptable and what's not. Our schools reward certain behaviors and punish others. Our culture tells us what success looks like, what happiness should feel like, what kind of person we should become. We absorb all of this. We build what Jung called the persona, a mask we wear to navigate the social world. The persona is not evil. We need it. But the problem is that most of us come to believe the mask is who we really are. We forget there's a face underneath. Meanwhile, everything that doesn't fit the persona, every desire, every trait, every aspect of ourselves that wasn't acceptable, gets pushed into what Jung called the shadow. We reject these parts of ourselves so completely that we forget they exist. But they don't disappear. They live in the unconscious, growing stronger, waiting. The more successful your persona, the more lost you can become. Because success in the world often means betrayal of the self. You become who others want you to be. You achieve what others define as achievement, and one day you wake up with everything and feel like nothing. Let me ask you directly, how much of your life is actually yours? How much is performance? How much is meeting expectations you never chose? How much is being the person you think you're supposed to be, rather than the person you actually are? This question is uncomfortable, but Jung would say that until you face it, you'll remain lost. Because you can't find yourself while you're still pretending to be someone else. If this is resonating with you, if you're starting to recognize your own situation, I need you to do something now. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Not for algorithm games, but because this message about finding yourself needs to reach others who are wandering in the same fog. And what comes next is where Jung's insights become practical. Jung mapped the territory of the psyche with remarkable precision. Understanding this map is the first step to finding your way. At the center of consciousness is the ego. This is the I you experience, the part that thinks it's in charge. The ego navigates the world, makes decisions, maintains your sense of continuous identity. Around the ego is the persona, the mask we discussed. The persona is how you present yourself to the world, your professional self, your social self, the self that knows how to behave at parties and job interviews. In the unconscious, hidden from the ego, lies the shadow. Everything you've rejected about yourself lives here, not just negative things, though those are there too. The shadow also contains your unlived life, talents you never developed, desires you never acknowledged, aspects of yourself that didn't fit the persona. Deeper still are the archetypes, universal patterns that exist in what Jung called the collective unconscious. The hero, the mother, the wise old man, the trickster. These patterns shape our experiences in ways we don't consciously recognize, and at the deepest level is the self, with a capital S. The self is the center of the entire psyche, not just consciousness. It's who you truly are at the most fundamental level. It's what you've lost connection with, and it's what's calling to you through your feeling of being lost. The feeling of being lost is often the ego's experience of being called by the self. Think about it. The ego has built a life. It has achieved things. It has constructed an identity. And then something happens. A crisis, a depression, a feeling of emptiness that won't go away. The achievements that used to satisfy no longer satisfy. The identity that used to work no longer works. This is the self breaking through, saying, there's more to you than this small, constructed self. There's more to life than this persona you've built. Come find me. Jung called this process individuation, the journey toward becoming a complete, integrated self. Not perfect, not ideal, complete, including your darkness, including your contradictions, including everything you've rejected and denied. Individuation is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who you already are at the deepest level. It's about recovering the wholeness that was always there, buried under layers of conditioning and performance. Second question for you. What parts of yourself have you rejected? What did you want to be as a child that you were told was impractical or wrong? What desires have you buried because they didn't fit your image of yourself? What would you do if no one was watching and no one would judge? These abandoned parts are in your shadow, and they want to come home. The path out of feeling lost begins with what Jung called shadow work. The shadow contains everything you don't want to see about yourself, but it also contains gold, talents, energy, creativity, authenticity, all locked away because they didn't fit the persona. Shadow work means consciously exploring what you've rejected. It means looking at the parts of yourself you're ashamed of. It means acknowledging desires you've denied and traits you've disowned. This is not easy. The shadow is called the shadow because we've pushed it into darkness. We don't want to see it, but until we do, we remain fragmented. We keep projecting our shadow onto others, seeing in them what we won't see in ourselves. We keep feeling that something is missing because something is missing, our own rejected parts. How do you do shadow work? Start by noticing what triggers you in others. What behaviors in other people make you irrationally angry or disgusted? Often these are shadow qualities you share but won't acknowledge. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Pay attention to your dreams. The unconscious speaks through dreams, often presenting shadow material in symbolic form. Keep a dream journal. Ask what the figures in your dreams might represent. Notice what you envy. Envy often points to unlived life. If you're envious of someone's creativity, your own creativity might be in your shadow waiting to be reclaimed. But shadow work is only part of the journey. The next stage involves connecting with the deeper archetypes. For men, Jung identified a key figure called the anima, the feminine aspect of the male psyche. For women, the corresponding figure is the animus, the masculine aspect of the female psyche. These contrasexual elements often appear in dreams as mysterious figures of the opposite sex. These archetypes represent aspects of ourselves we haven't integrated. The overly rational man needs to connect with feeling, intuition, relatedness, qualities traditionally coded as feminine. The woman who has lived entirely through relationships might need to connect with independence, assertion, logic, qualities traditionally coded as masculine. Beyond these personal archetypes lie the great universal patterns, the hero's journey that calls you to adventure, the wise old man or woman who offers guidance, the great mother who nurtures and devours, the trickster who disrupts and renews. These archetypes are alive in your psyche. They appear in your dreams, your fantasies, your attractions and repulsions. Learning to recognize and work with them is part of the journey toward wholeness. Third question, who are the figures in your dreams? Are there recurring characters, places, situations? What might they be trying to tell you? Have you ever written down your dreams and looked for patterns? Your unconscious is speaking to you every night, but most of us never learn its language. Let me tell you about the midlife crisis, which Jung understood long before it became a cultural cliché. Jung observed that around age 35 to 40, many people hit a wall. The strategies that worked in the first half of life stop working. The achievements that seemed meaningful feel empty. The persona that got them success becomes a prison. This is not a problem. It's a developmental necessity. The first half of life is about building ego, establishing identity, career, family, a place in the world. But the second half of life requires something different. The journey inward, the recovery of lost parts, the connection with the self. Many people try to solve the midlife crisis by doing more of what worked before. More achievement, more acquisition, more distraction. This doesn't work, because the problem is not outside. The problem is that you've lived only half a life. The other half, the inner half, the half that was sacrificed for outer success, is demanding attention. If you're feeling lost in your 30s, 40s, or beyond, this might be exactly what's happening. The self is calling you to the second journey, the journey home. So what does the path forward look like practically? How do you move from feeling lost to finding yourself? First, accept the crisis. Stop trying to fix it or escape it. The feeling of being lost is meaningful. It's a message. Sit with it instead of running from it. Second, begin shadow work. Identify what you've rejected about yourself. Look at what triggers you, what you envy, what appears in your dreams. Start welcoming these rejected parts back. Third, pay attention to your dreams. Keep a journal by your bed. Write them down immediately upon waking. Look for patterns, recurring figures, themes. Your unconscious is offering guidance if you learn to listen. Fourth, question your persona. Ask yourself which parts of your life are authentic and which are performance. What would you stop doing if you didn't care about others' opinions? What would you start doing? Fifth, find symbols that speak to you. Jung used painting, writing, and sculpture to dialogue with his unconscious. What creative practices call to you? What images, stories, myths resonate? Follow those threads. Sixth, consider working with a guide. Jung believed in the value of skilled therapeutic support for the individuation journey. Not to fix you, but to accompany you. The descent is dangerous, and a guide can help. Seventh, be patient. Individuation is not a weekend project. It's the work of the second half of life, maybe the work of a lifetime. There's no rushing it, there's only committing to it. Before we finish, I want to tell you something Jung wrote that I find deeply comforting. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Think about that. Becoming who you truly are is not an obligation, not a burden, it's a privilege. It's the greatest gift life offers. And the feeling of being lost, as painful as it is the beginning of claiming that privilege. You feel lost because you've wandered far from yourself, but you wouldn't feel lost if some part of you didn't remember home. The very pain of your disconnection is proof that connection is possible. The self is calling you. The question is whether you'll answer. Before you go, I need you to do something. If Jung's message has given you hope, if you recognize yourself in what we've discussed, share this video with someone who needs it. Someone who is lost and doesn't know why. Someone who thinks the emptiness is just how life is. Someone who needs to know that the journey home is possible. And subscribe to this channel. We're exploring the ideas that can help us find our way, not through easy answers, but through honest exploration. Carl Jung spent his life mapping the territory of the human soul. He descended into his own darkness and returned with treasures. He showed us that the psyche is vast, that we are more than we know, that the journey inward is the most important journey there is. You feel lost. I know. The emptiness is real. The disconnection hurts. The sense that you're living someone else's life is not a delusion. But Jung would tell you this. You feel lost because you're on the verge of being found. The crisis is not the end. It's the beginning. The breakdown of the old self creates space for the true self to emerge. The persona you've built is not you. It's a mask. The self you've been living is not all of you. There's more. There's a self deeper than the ego, more whole than the fragmented identity you've cobbled together. That self is calling to you through your pain, through your emptiness, through your dreams and your longings and your inexplicable sadness. It's time to answer the call. It's time to begin the journey home. You're not lost. You're exactly where you need to be for the real work to begin. Now start.